All right, guys, now it is time to learn the more awesome type of factoring, which is the two parentheses kind. Keep in mind, factoring is the opposite of distribution, right? So in distribution, we had one type of distribution where there were two parentheses, and we did all the arcs or cannonballs, rainbows, whatever you want to call it, right? That's what this is going to be, but in reverse. How on earth are we going to do that? All right. First of all, you are going to get used to, over time, identifying if something will be just factoring out or if it will be this other type of factoring where you have the two parentheses. For now, I will tell you this one will be the two parentheses kind. So what are we going to do? We're going to write our two sets of parentheses with big spaces in between. Step one, okay? Step one, write your parentheses. Step two, now we want to think about some stuff. This x squared over here, in order to get x squared, we're going to need to do x times x, right? That's what x squared means. And when we're doing the distribution, all these things get multiplied across, right? That's what the arcs are for. This x squared is in the very first position, so in this very first position, inside of each of these, we're going to put an x, like that, right? And when we do the distribution back, right, okay, when that goes backwards, this x times x would become that x squared. Then we need to find some multiples of 15. Right, for now, bear with me. It's all going to make sense, but we're just going to do some process learning right now, and then we're going to get to the deeper understanding. Okay, so first mechanics. So then, in order to get this 15, we're going to need something here and something here that will multiply together to get 15, because those will end up being multiplied. So we're going to list out all of our factor pairs for 15. And we get 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Also, if we want to get positive 15, we could do -1 and -15, or -3 and -5, right? This is going to be important because there are plenty of times when you're going to have, two negatives or a negative and a positive. It's going to give you different answers. If you are not super comfortable with negatives, now is the time to improve that skill for yourself. Make sure it is so sharp, make sure it is so comfortable, and you really, really have it. So, negatives. Awesome. All right. Now, over here, we're going to want to look for the one that will add up to this middle term. So we want to get +8 in the middle. Which one of these is going to get us +8? Well, that +3, +5, right? 3 + 5 is 8. So what are we going to do next? We're going to put +3 and +5 over here. Why on earth does this work? Let's check it out. Remember, factoring and distribution, they're opposites. So we can now take this thing and do the distribution to see how this got created, okay? So in the beginning, we would do the x times x. That's how we get x squared, which is what we wanted. We wanted an x squared. This is so cool, guys. Don't worry. All right, then I'm skipping a few steps here, but at the end, these end ones, when we do this part, 3 times 5, that's how we got the plus 15, right? Positive 15. And then those middle ones, right? So when we did x times 5 and then 3 times x, that's how we got the +5x plus 3x, which will combine like terms, to get 8x plus 8x. How awesome is that? It's so cool. Okay. This is how it ends up working out. This is why it needs to multiply to get 15 and add to get 8, because that's the steps, that's the process. You're going to have this part, which will simplify, and then these parts on the end, which will always just be multiplied. The first thing, and then the last thing gets you that, right? Okay, let's do another example. Okay, we have b squared plus 3b minus 10. First steps first. You guys know the first step. We put our parentheses. That's the first step. Always write your two parentheses with a bunch of space in between so that you can fit stuff in there. Then we want to figure out this b squared term. What's going to go in those first two locations? Hint, hint, hint. It's going to be a b and another b. Okay. Now we're going to skip ahead to the end. In order to get that -10, let's do our multiples, okay? So we want -10 over here, -10. We can do -1, -1, and a +10, or +1, -10, okay? We can also do -2, +5, or +2, -5. And there we go. All those things will get us to a -10 or a -10. So which one of those are we going to pick? We need something that's going to add up to get positive 3b, right? So plus 3. Which one of these gets us plus 3 is definitely not those first two. It's going to be this third one. Plus 5 minus 2 will get you a plus 3. Minus 5 plus 2 would get you negative 3. And again, if you're not super comfortable with addition and subtraction in the negative, now is the time to work on that. Just let your instructor know we have a whole curriculum. It's super speedy. It's fun. It's not a big deal. Just work on that. Make sure that skill is super solid for you. You are going to need it mega tons for factoring. Okay, so we're going to pick this one. Minus 2 plus 5. What do we do next? We put in the minus 2 and the plus 5. There we go. Again, why does this work? Because when we do the distribution backwards, right, so back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, the b squared comes from those first two terms. The negative 10 or minus 10 comes from the last two terms. Negative 2 times positive 5, that gets us negative 10. And then the middle term, that plus 3b, comes from the plus 5x minus 2x. Oh, sorry, that should say b. But you get the idea, right? Okay, now we're gonna practice this like so much. When you do this, all these steps are super necessary. You don't have to do this last step down here, right? So that whole, all this stuff, you can not do that part. But we do need to do these. If this becomes wrong, we will ask you to do that extra step where you do distribute it out and make sure, okay? So use this, write out your factor pairs, make sure that's all clear. First step is always to write your parentheses. First step is always to write your parentheses. Nobody over here should say, I don't know what the first step is. It's just writing parentheses. I know you guys know how to do that. Okay, I think you guys are ready to go practice. Ready, set, go.